which is sponsored by Comfort Keepers in Home Care and Advanced Audiology. I'm Barbara Cochran with my co-host,
Dr. Jean Dorio.
On your hometown station, KHTS. This is a show for, about, and by seniors, giving information to enhance one's quality of life. And speaking of enhancing quality of life, our very favorite Dr. Thomas Pilecki is here.
Yay.
It's great to be here.
Doctor of Chiropractic.
Welcome aboard.
Yes.
Thank you.
And we have lots to talk about today.
Yeah, hopefully. I actually want to focus on some of your success stories, if that's okay with you.
Okay.
Some of the things you've been through in the past several months and what your experience has been with working with me.
That suits me fine.
Yeah. So a lot of people don't know what kind of doctor I am. You know, they hear the word chiropractor and that immediately evokes almost like a reflex reaction of the
Body
twist and crack and ambulance chaser type situation, that not a real doctor, that kind of thing. And I get that. I grew up in a medical family, and I was testing for medical school when I discovered chiropractic, and I had all the prejudices, like I assume pretty much everybody does. And when he was able to do something for me at 16, I went to a chiropractor, and all of a sudden I was off of my 5 lifelong prescriptions, and ever since I haven't needed any form of medication, and that's 35 years ago. I realized that I was onto something. It's not the answer for everybody, for every problem, but I did realize that this is something that you won't get in conventional medicine. And I know how you have your own issues, Dr. Dorio, with conventional medicine and where it's going. And I was fortunate enough to be exposed to these difficulties in conventional medicine early on enough that I didn't invest too much in that situation. And it's come to the point where very good, very smart, very caring medical doctors are just unable to do their job anymore. They
or have the knowledge to be able to do their jobs appropriately.
Exactly. Yeah, so I didn't want any part of that. It was kind of the family business. On my mother's side of the family, everybody was involved in the medical profession. And I saw behind the scenes stuff that nobody should see. and I didn't necessarily want to be part of that. And so when I saw such a life-changing opportunity for me, I decided to go the other route. And it doesn't mean that I'm any less of a doctor, although I understand how the public may see that. It means that I just made a different choice. And it's taken nearly 35 years for the public to catch up with it, for the state of medicine to have the kind of, shall we say, unwanted attention that it is currently getting because of things like the internet and things like social media, where there isn't just one source. When I first discovered chiropractic, and I asked my chiropractic doctor, why? I mean, I've been going to medical doctors my entire life, and none of them ever told me what you told me. I got to tell you that I'm suspicious of what you're saying. Where can I find this information? Again, I find it, and because there wasn't an internet back then, believe it or not.
Yes.
There was no internet there.
Right.
You couldn't just Google something or Wikipedia something. And I said, can I find it in my local library? He was like, no. I was like, wait a second. Why not? Why can't I find any information about this in my local library? And the answer that he gave me at the time didn't make any sense. He just said it's politics. And I'm like, politics? No, I'm asking you a medical question. Don't come back and tell me that it's politics. And then after some life experience, I realized that it is exactly politics. And medicine is so in such a political quagmire that it really limits your doctor's ability to help you effectively. So I got exposed to that pretty early on, and have focused all of my attention in the past 35 years on that. And I'm able to do things for my patients, not because I'm such a better doctor than everybody else, but I'm just not limited the same way that so many doctors are. So I'm able to do things for my patients that other doctors just can't.
Well, now, let me ask you something. There are two ways to perform chiropractic.
Well, there's actually
Well-
several hundred ways
Well,
to
the
perform
two that I'm aware of.
Sure.
And that's the one where you lie down either on your side, on your back, on your stomach, and you're twisted and pulled and
Yeah.
turned with everything cracking
Yeah.
and thinking, my gosh, my body's going to fall apart. Then there's the other kind that you do
Right.
that is not pulling and cracking and doing all of this stuff, but you use your hands on while I'm on a bed, or you have a vibrator mechanism that really, really helps. And I can't imagine that cracking would replace that.
No, it doesn't. There's I have to be careful because right now what I'm about to say, more than 90% of the chiropractic profession vehemently opposes. But I don't care, because 90% of the population feels the same way I do about this. Twisting and cracking your spine is not good.
I can't imagine it would be.
Yeah.
But I
And
had
I-
experience with chiropractors
Sure,
like that.
sure, most people do, and some people like that. I'm sure, I've made this statement publicly before on my show for the past 5 years, and I do get some, haters out there. But it doesn't matter to me. 90% of the people have the same feeling about this that I do, so I don't feel bad that 90% of chiropractors aren't on board. I have no problem with that whatsoever. And the reality is that when you get to the real science behind it, when you get to the real anatomy and physiology involved with every single spinal joint having 6 joint surfaces all pointed in different directions, and you think that twisting that situation up until something cavitates, which is that popping, cracking noise that makes a lot of people cringe, that just makes a lot of people just feel it, like shiver, like when they see something like that. Most of the most viral chiropractic videos online aren't because it's such a beautiful experience for the patient. It's that it's a train wreck. It's like a car accident. People will slow down to look at the horror of a car accident, but that doesn't mean they want to be in one. So the marketers see that, this video is trending. We're getting 1 million hits on this. Look at this great marketing for chiropractic. It's not. It's just that people like to see a train wreck. People like to see a car accident. It doesn't promote the ability of chiropractic to be a substantial health care alternative for people. I see that stuff and I'm like, oh my God, that's horrible. Because I know the mechanics and I know the neurology and I know the physiology and I know what's really going on there. That even if you, in that gross manipulation movement, you are able to produce some temporary relief for that individual, the overwhelming likelihood is you just destabilized that spinal area and created a new misalignment that may be symptomatic. It may have symptoms or may not have symptoms at the time, but ultimately will continue to feed back bad information into the brain and cause the whole syndrome that I'm trying to correct, which is there's this one little square inch of real estate in the center of the head where the nerve system and the hormone system interact and control everything, and I do mean everything that goes on in the body. And that's where the thalamus becomes the hypothalamus, becomes the pituitary. So right there is the crossroads of the two main control centers of the body, the neurological control center and the hormonal control center. Between those two, Pretty much every single system, every single function in the body is in one way or another controlled or coordinated. And when you have good feedback coming up through those spinal segments, all the sensors in all the joints in all the spinal tissue is constantly feeding information into that little control center. And when that information is appropriate, you have health. And when it's not, you have the alarm stress system go off, and it can be years before it manifests as some kind of thing that would be classified as a disease. But we can measure it in real time right now with the technology that we have. Something called a PET scan, which is a functional MRI. So without getting into too many details, you can track metabolism with this MRI. You can put a marker on glucose and put a person in this device. It's like an MRI if anybody has any experience with that. It's kind of a way to look inside your body without having to cut you open. But this thing, because you can track this tagged glucose, you can see metabolism on an MRI. You can see body function on an MRI instead of just a picture of the actual structure. So when you can see what's happening, what metabolic processes are happening in real time, you can start seeing, is that brain activity in that area, is that going into the alarm phase where you're spewing out catecholamines, and that's a Scrabble word, that's a big letter for stress chemicals. Are you spewing out these stress chemicals, the alarm system in your body? Or are you having the appropriate response where instead of going into that stress chemistry, you go up into the higher brain functions and figure out what needs to be done in order to correct the situation? And we can actually look at this in real time with PET scans right now. And some really smart people are looking at how can we change this stress reaction into an appropriate healing response. So they try everything when they've got these people in these PET scans because it's expensive. It's something like $1 million an hour in order to do this research. So they try everything. They try medication. They try music. They try guided meditation. They try the limited amount of exercises that you can do while you're in this contraption. And somebody somehow got a chiropractor in there, and they did the kind of adjusting that I do, not the general manipulation, but they did the specific chiropractic adjustment. And immediately the metabolism changed from going into the stress response to going into the healing response.
You know, the other thing, too, talking about stress, I can remember when I was going to a chiropractor who was doing the twisting and the turning. Mm-hmm. I was always scared to death that when he had hold of me, he was going to drop me. So I was nervous and stressed at the same time and all tightened up.
Yeah.
So it really didn't do much good.
Yeah.
To do all that twisting and turning.
Well, even if you weren't afraid of falling, there is a guarding mechanism. The spine is a pretty sensitive structure. And without even thinking about it, we have these reactions to guard and protect our spines. Some of them are appropriate, some of them are not appropriate, but that defense of our spine is a reflex. It's not even, you don't think about it. You don't think about, oh, I'm afraid of whether I'm going to get hurt or not. It's automatic. So there is that guarding mechanism that goes on that, you know, a very accomplished chiropractor just with enough experience will trick you and override you and get, you know, a manipulation in. But it doesn't mean that it's any better for you. It just means that, you know, there's not as much soft tissue damage with the manipulation as there is. And there are some that use hot packs and muscle stim and vibrators in order to try to get you to relax before they do their thing.
Yeah, I had some of that also.
It doesn't change the fact that, six joints facing in different directions just all got twisted and cranked around, and the overwhelming likelihood is, even if you didn't create any connective tissue damage in that if you possibly reduced stress and tension in the joint sensors on one of those joint surfaces, you just as likely created new joint tension and on the sensors in one of the other 6 joints. And that's why we don't do it for the most part, because I have a different understanding of what the feedback coming up from those joint sensors really means. And I know that general manipulation is not the answer to this problem.
Well, we're going to take a break, but, since I'm a conventional doctor, and, our listeners are, every day they're hearing popping and cracking because they're seniors. They're trying to move around and be mobile. So the popping and cracking is normal for us to hear our bodies telling us there's a problem here. But when we come back, let me give you my positive opinion about chiropractors and what an effect it had on me when I was a youngster. I wasn't popping and cracking at that point, but, I had an experience with a chiropractor at a young age that probably made a huge difference, a huge positive difference in my life. And despite being a conventional doctor, I still have, embraced the abilities of chiropractors to help my patients out. So we're going to take a little break on the Senior Hour. I'm Dr. Gene Dorio with my co-host Barbara Cochran on your hometown station KHTS.
The best live theater can be found right here in the Santa Clarita Valley. The Canyon Theater Guild has been entertaining audiences for decades with top quality musicals and plays. Located on Main Street in Old Town Newhall, CTG also offers workshops for the young actor in your family. For more information, call the box office at 799-2702 or go online to canyontheater.org.
The minute I open my door,
Debbie Morris has a problem.
I say, oh my gosh,
A really big problem.
the dog, the cat, my 3-year-old.
Debbie's house is a mess.
How can one family create this disaster?
Debbie needs Made for You.
I need help.
Professional, residential, and commercial cleaning, locally owned. You choose the schedule: weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, or even one-time seasonal cleaning. Call 255-2922. That's 255-2922. Made for You.
Made for You rescued me.
At Advanced Audiology, we know how important hearing is to you, your loved ones, your work success, your safety, and your ability to stay in the game. Most people won't admit hearing loss to themselves or others. We make it easy for you. Today's digital hearing aids come in a variety of styles, including invisible. All feature-rich, providing unparalleled hearing quality, wearing comfort, and automation that simplifies your life. Don't be fooled by our imitators. There's only one Advanced Audiology with the purple sign next to AAA on Valencia Boulevard.
Santa Clarita's hometown station.
Now FM, 98.1 FM and AM-1220, your hometown station.
Will you still need me? Will you still feed me when I'm 64?
Welcome back to the Senior Hour. I'm Dr. Gene Dorio with my co-host Barbara Cochran on your hometown station KHTS. We're talking with Dr. Thomas Palucki about conventional medicine versus chiropractic medicine. And my experience in the past, when I was young, I was 15 years old, I was playing baseball. My parents signed my first contract. And, I was looking at, maybe even a career moving in that direction, but yanked out my back. I got to a point where I couldn't even walk for like a week. And, somebody said, go to this chiropractic doctor, which I did, and he really didn't do the cracking and popping. I didn't hear any of that, but I was so dismayed by now here early in life. I didn't break my ankle and I didn't hurt my knee. Here I was, I have to swing a bat to be able to play baseball, and I ended up going to a chiropractor, and the best part about this, he spent probably 20 minutes with me, first right off the bat, asking me questions about what my problems were. And once he told me after that, this is what I think is going on, and he laid hands on my back and did some compressing. And I did hear some popping. I didn't hear any cracking, but I heard some popping and got up and I was cured. I was done. And, I learned later through a medical student who was in chiropractic school how to adjust my back in case, by myself. And I learned to do that as well. But, that allowed me to play baseball until I was 26 years old and had a huge impact on how I perceive, how I practice medicine with an open mind, knowing that, popping and cracking is a part of the senior experience. But, even if it happens to be in a chiropractic office, it does do good. It does have value. And, I do, during our break, I even said that, many of my colleagues, feel the same way. I mean, there might be some negative public and even conventional doctors who say, something negative against it. But, my personal experience allowed me to play with professional people for 11 years of my life, which, then after that I went to medical school, but, I didn't have to worry about my back. But, being now on Medicare, I don't quite always hear the popping and cracking of my body, but I do have, I haven't had any tremendous back pain since then, since I've followed the advice of that one physician in the past who helped me out.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love success stories, even when it's from someone who doesn't see things the same way that I do. Mm-hmm. It's all good. It's all good. And I am, above all else, because I have advanced certifications in functional medicine and nutrition. I'm the medical director for functional diagnostic nutrition worldwide. So I have a lot of different titles. But first and foremost, I'm a chiropractor, and I still believe that it is an incredibly underused service in this country. There's currently less than 20% of people use chiropractor for any reason whatsoever. Mm-hmm. And when you do tabulate let's just call it 20% that do, many of them are like you, Dr. Dorio, who go in for one treatment, they get what they're looking for, and they never look back and never go back. So when you factor in all those numbers, there is still an overwhelming majority of people who are not utilizing chiropractic on any level whatsoever. And I kind of get that. And that's what this conversation is about, more so than is it credible? Is there some value to it? I think most people get that maybe there is some value to chiropractic for certain things, certain times, for certain conditions and certain reasons. But there's always that caveat. But, don't let them, convince you that you need anything more than one treatment, or because unfortunately there are a lot of chiropractors out there that do abuse their authority, that do convince people that they need things that maybe not be in that patient's best interest, but is in the chiropractor's best interest.
It happens in conventional with
exactly,
conventional doctors
but there's
too.
no
So
difference.
We know that.
There's no difference, and the only difference between the two is, more often than not, that chiropractor is asking a patient to pay out of their pocket for those things. So that really rubs people the wrong way. If a medical doctor is guilty of the same thing, that they recommend services that are not in the patient's best interest, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be covered by that person's insurance. So there's that whole thing. And the only real difference there is, who's paying for it. So a lot of people, I just the other day started a new patient who had a lot of trepidation about chiropractic. And I asked, I totally respect that. Can you tell me why? And the answer was no surprise to me. He said, well, I went to this person that a couple of people recommended, and I wanted to see if they could help me. And this gentleman still has his problems. I wanted to see if they could help me, and they immediately wanted me to pay for a $4,000 package of care that was going to consist of a couple of months of daily treatments, and I wasn't convinced that it was going to help me. Since then, this gentleman has spent several times that doing other things. I won't get into what he's tried, but he's done several other things, and he still has his problem. So in large part, it's a matter of people's trust. And I believe that people's trust is misplaced more often than not, largely due to marketing, largely due to the constant bombardment of the information that they receive in every form of media. And what that boils down to is that we don't care what kind of problem you have, everything's going to get better if you just use this. Whether that be a pill or a process or a new car or whatever. That's what marketing is all about. All of your problems go away if you just buy our product. And the thing is, one of the most heavy marketing campaigns out there right now is the pharmaceutical industry. It's by and large the majority of commercials you see. And there's no mistaking, why that is. It's because it's ridiculously profitable for these drug companies. So much so that they have influenced the education system of every doctor, the legislation of bills that should not ever be the case, where I have to get my child vaccinated by law, by state law. I have to, in order for them to, go to school. Now, I'm not here to debate the validity of vaccine. I mean, I have my beliefs, but that doesn't enter into it. The fact that any medical procedure is mandated by law is wrong. It's just wrong. There should never be a case where it's like whatever your belief is, as far as what is appropriate medicine, it should never be dictated by law, as far as I'm concerned.
No, I agree.
Evidence-based medicine, the challenges that we see in the media become more difficult because the media and those who control it, like the pharmaceutical companies, make a huge difference in how we think and how we're going to approach illness.
Absolutely. We're getting into very dangerous ground. I feel for my conventional medical colleagues in that I think many of them are going to be replaced by an artificial intelligence algorithm in short order. Simply because the protocols that most conventional medical doctors are forced to follow, whether they are comfortable with them or not, whether they believe them or not, are done so much better and so much more effectively by an artificial intelligence. And I believe you will start seeing new programs where the emphasis is on something like a nurse practitioner than the expense of a medical doctor, replacing that, and she is under the direct control of an artificial intelligence and has no medical doctor intervening in that situation at all.
Gee, Merry Christmas, it sounds like.
See, and I don't...
The non-driving cars.
Yeah.
We'll
talk about
There's
that.
that too. There's that too. That is happening.
Oh, I know.
But
And the only reason that it got attention is because one of those automated cars killed somebody.
That's right.
in Tempe, Arizona, just last week. But AI, artificial intelligence, it's out there. But I don't think it's going to take, even with the algorithms that they have, and they've tried to put them out there. I've seen them all. We have them at every hospital in this country, and they're not making a change in the statistics. We're seeing that. Secondly, and this is what our seniors are worried and complaining about. Everybody is worried and complaining about because our health and how we do is not only subject to how our body is functioning, it's also how our mind is functioning. There's psychologic input from everything that goes on in our life. And the artificial intelligence of medicine right now is not understanding these concepts and not bringing them into the fold of allowing a doctor or a nurse practitioner or a physician's assistant or anyone to be able to say, this is all the things that are playing a role in your life. These are all your symptoms, and this is what you have. It just is I don't think it's ever going to work. I think they believe it will be to simplify it, but there's going to be huge errors in this whole process. Just like with autonomous cars now, there are always going to be problems with it. And there was a letter in our local paper today that talked about it in a very appropriate manner, that you're always going to need to have somebody who can drive behind the wheel of an autonomous car, because every situation is not going to be known, and things are going to happen that somebody is going to have to take control, and that's very true. And I understand that, and I'm a very, very big proponent of autonomous cars because I think it will help our seniors move around and keep them mobile. But I'm realizing also that just like trying to apply AI to medicine and the algorithms, the same thing like you brought up is with autonomous cars. There's going to be errors in all of this that are going to lead to huge problems for driving or in medicine and making diagnosis and treating people. So our seniors are hearing that, they're understanding that, and I think that the best part about our seniors is they're asking questions, and most of them right now, Barb, won't get into an autonomous car, will they?
Not me. I know that. You would never catch me in there, ever. Yeah. I need to be able to control something to the best of my ability. I don't want something else controlling me, okay? Something that I wouldn't trust anyway.
Yeah, but go ahead.
Can we get back to chiropractic?
Yeah, sure, go.
Because I wanted to, I've been coming to see you for quite a while now, and when I first walk in there, I know better than to sit down because I have to get right back up again. But you come at me with this thing that you put on my hips. Mm-hmm. Now, what does that do? Does that tell you that I'm slightly off one way or the other? Or that and when I went the other day, last week, you said, good.
Yeah.
So what did that mean? I'm assuming that meant I was standing correctly.
Yes. So for the benefit of people listening on the radio who can't see what you're doing, we check balance, posture, coordination, strength on every single visit. These are things that you could demonstrate anywhere with very simple. You don't even need any special equipment. I invested in some special equipment to make it more measurable and more of a user-friendly experience for the patient, where they can see whether they're standing level, whether they're standing straight, whether their posture is good or bad. Because the same mechanism that controls posture in your body is tied in with what I was talking about in the earlier segment, that area in the brain that is the interaction between the nerve system and the hormone system, which essentially covers all of the bases. There are several subsystems, and you can break it down into minutia of all the different specialties in all of medicine. But when you start chunking it down into what really controls the body, there's only two things, and one is the nerve system and one is the hormone system. So between those two areas, if you've got that right, digestion works right, blood pressure works right, and we can talk about blood pressure with you as well. And so I'm looking at one vital statistic that is not looked at by any other conventional doctor, with the understanding of how it ties back into everything. Just like a cardiologist can look at some squiggly lines on a piece of paper and have a real good idea about what's going on inside of your heart, I can look at your posture and have a real good idea about what's going on in the control centers that are either going to allow you to heal properly or are going to continue to throw those systems out of balance.
Yeah, that's interesting because I was going to you after I had that automobile accident in the end of December 2016. I was coming to see you 4 days a week because of what that accident did to my body.
It was a very serious accident.
Yeah, we were T-boned. And had it not been for the side airbag, my head would have been crushed. And they had to pull me out of the back of the car because they couldn't open the door. But my neck, I had problems with my neck and with my back. And I have to say, over a year's worth of treatment, I don't have any real problems except some lingering neck stuff where you use that jackhammer or whatever it is, but it works.
Yeah.
The thing that bangs in here, but it works because I feel better.
Yeah.
But you have done an amazing job with straightening me out physically as far as my body and my back and my neck is concerned.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for the opportunity because I know that not everybody would trust me with that because it was a very serious injury, a very serious accident, and it took, as you said, more than a little bit of treatment to get it right.
It did.
And a lot of people, because I deal with this on a daily basis, they don't necessarily trust my methodology. They don't understand how what I do could not just replace surgical intervention, but actually get a much better outcome.
Well, it certainly did with me.
So how much drugs did you use, Barb?
I didn't use any drugs.
There you go, and that's the key part. We talked about the pharmaceutical companies and being brainwashed with all the commercials they have on, but you were able to achieve your balance back into life without using drugs.
That's right.
And for those people, we worry about opioid addiction and taking drugs that are unnecessary. This is the perfect example of where chiropractic medicine plays I think a much bigger role than is given care about. I think the understanding about, because we need to be able to use the modalities that are in front of us. But if chiropractic care, for me, it's not slandered in any way in my thought process, but apparently it is out there, but it needs to be a part of the senior thought process and modality of thinking when we come to total senior care. We want to have good vision, hearing, dental, those are all important, but chiropractic care needs to be a part of that and that understanding, especially when you take a drug and you end up getting constipated or dizzy and falling and all these other things, or addicted. That's not the best modality to use.
Well, I would agree with you. I would agree with you
as well. Thank you.
And the fact that there's an opioid crisis right now. Hundreds and hundreds of people are dying from drug overdoses, mainly opioids. And it's really nothing but a temporary fix for a few hours, but it really doesn't solve any problems.
It's a Band-Aid.
That's right.
A
That's
Band-Aid
exactly
where there's
it.
no scab formed or anything. It doesn't heal. It just stays there. You keep putting the Band-Aid back on thinking that it's going to get better, and it doesn't.
That's right. That's exactly right. And you wouldn't get me on those things for all the tea in China. I'll take CBD any day because they work. And I think we are getting the evil eye over there. We need to take a little break. I'm Barbara Cochran with my co-host, Dr. Jean Dorio, on your hometown station, KHTS.
Did you know that SCVI has the only international baccalaureate program in our community? That means that students at Santa Clarita Valley International Public Charter School can participate in very rigorous classes run by highly trained and skilled international teachers. They work with kids to become active, compassionate, and lifelong learners. Students with IB diplomas at select colleges can graduate with a full year credit at their university. Schedule a tour today online at scvi-k12.org or by calling 705-4820.
Move on from what's familiar and discover what's possible in your relationships. This is Jasmine Urbina, inviting you to tune in to The Inspirational Parent as my dad and I tap into a fresh perspective on modern parenting relationships and dish out the magical ingredients for effective parenting exclusively on KHTS. Catch us live every Friday on The Inspirational Parent from 12 to 1 or download our podcast at hometownstation.com.
City of Hope is a world leader in cancer research and treatment, and there's a City of Hope community practice location right here in Santa Clarita, eliminating a major barrier in the fight against cancer: distance to quality care. Santa Clarita benefits from City of Hope's compassionate care and renowned clinical expertise. Find out more at cityofhope.org/Santa Clarita or call 661-799-1999.
At Advanced Audiology, we know how important hearing is to you, your loved ones, your work success, your safety, and your ability to stay in the game. Most people won't admit hearing loss to themselves or others. We make it easy for you. Today's digital hearing aids come in a variety of styles, including invisible. All feature-rich, providing unparalleled hearing quality, wearing comfort, and automation that simplifies your life. Don't be fooled by our imitators. There's only one Advanced Audiology with the purple sign next to AAA on Valencia Boulevard.
Now FM, 98.1 FM, and AM 1220, your hometown station.
Will you still need me? Will you still feed me when I'm 64?
Welcome back to the Senior Hour. I'm Barbara Cochran with my co-host, Dr. Jean Dorio, on your hometown station, KHTS. And we're speaking with Dr. Thomas Palucki, a doctor of chiropractic, correct?
That is correct.
Extraordinaire.
Yes, extraordinaire. Yes, I forgot that word, didn't I?
Have to add an E.
Yes. So let's wrap up.
Okay.
What we've been talking about.
Okay.
And I'll leave it to the inimitable Dr. Thomas Palucki.
Okay. Well, today's show we've talked about the functionality of healthcare, whether you're choosing conventional medicine or you're open to the possibility of chiropractic. The bottom line is having some kind of check and balance system in order to make sure that you're really getting what you need and not just being influenced by a charismatic individual. And this is what I see time and time again with, there's two main concerns, because I've been out in the public for the past 25 years promoting chiropractic. And one of the questions that we have, do you have a chiropractic experience? Was it good? What did you like most about it? What did you not like about it? And so I have some real information from the public about what this profession looks like. It's not my little bubble that's created by rah-rah sessions with other chiropractors. And overwhelmingly, it's that people feel that chiropractors could potentially be dangerous with that twisting and cracking. They don't personally care for it. And even if it does make them feel temporarily better, they realize that it's probably not a good long-term answer to anything. The other situation is that many people feel like it is a sales presentation. And I've even had that happen to me. People have come back and said, well, I feel like you weren't really talking about me or my concerns, that you were just selling your chiropractic on me. So I had to look at that very closely and see why am I making people feel like that? Is there something really legitimate about that, or were they just preconditioned to believe that they're going to get a sales presentation when they go to a chiropractor, and regardless of what I said, they interpreted it that way?
I think that's more true than
Well,
not.
thank you. Thank you for you putting your experience in, but I am sensitive to this stuff. I'm not a person who takes negative criticism personally. I take it as how is this going to make me better? So I work very hard at making sure that nobody ever feels that way in my office. So there are two main concerns. One is that there is questionable validity to the twisting and cracking, which I tend to agree with. And there is questionable, shall we say, agendas out there when you go to a chiropractor. Is that chiropractor really acting in the patient's best interest, or are they acting in their own? And those are the two main concerns that I see. All the other stuff, like, oh, they're not real doctors. We have just as much education as any medical doctor. Myself, I'm a geek. I have 2 to 3 times the amount of education as the typical medical doctor. But I don't hold that over anybody. My job is to give the best result to that patient. And if that involves making a call to one of my medical colleagues, it involves that. And if it involves referring that person for physical therapy, or referring that person for some area of expertise that they'd be better suited somewhere else, that is my main and sole concern for that patient. And I think that's why I tend to get better results than the average chiropractor. And that is why I got into this in the first place.
Well, reiterating our part of this, you've had 2 co-hosts on the show give testimony about their experience with chiropractors, and just making sure that our listening audience, our seniors especially, understand that part of medical care is having options and understanding what your options are. And when you go see your eye doctor, when you get a hearing aid, when you go to your dentist, that's your regular care. And part of that in your repertoire is acupuncture, acupressure, and chiropractic. And if you eliminate that as a possibility, then you've eliminated that choice to get better health and live a better life. So, it's up to the individual what they look at and how they look at it. But, from the viewpoint here on this side, it's, both Barb and I have had experience with chiropractic medicine, and it's changed everything for us.
Absolutely. And
I love that.
I suggest that everyone have an open mind about
Absolutely.
it.
So if people want to get a hold of you, Dr. Pilecki, phone number?
For this audience, the phone number is probably the best way, 661-753-9340.
753-9340. Just make sure you seniors understand that he's an option. Dr. Pilecki is a big option. Thank you for being on the show today.
Always a
We
pleasure.
Appreciate it. We are sponsored by Advanced Audiology and Comfort Keepers in Home Care. Listen to us next week on the Senior Hour. Now go and enhance your quality of life.